Hey, everybody. Welcome to From Justin to Kane.
Mike and Bob's podcast. We're doing this episode remotely for obvious reasons.
It's the first episode recorded during this whole coronavirus thing.
Yes. And so far, it's going without a hitch, right, Mike?
No hitches. Yes, no hitches whatsoever.
Yeah. What are the two movies this episode?
This episode, the two movies are 2019's Portrait of a Lady on Fire,
which is just a great film. I watched it like an hour ago. Amazing.
It's very, very good. It's the good film of the two. And 2018's Ready Player One, which is the not good film.
And I'm fuzzy on it because I watched it like 2 months ago and I didn't rewatch it for this episode. I'm going to be honest with you. So I'm going to be leaning on you, Mike, a little bit for details.
Actually, you know what? Can I be honest with you?
Yeah.
I watched it in the previous calendar year.
Oh, fuck.
The last time I saw it was in 2019 sometime. I don't even remember.
Oh, so you're going to be leaning on me, Mike.
I'll be leaning on you. You probably saw it more recently. I did research for the episode, but
okay.
I don't remember most of the film. But yeah, so it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting for sure.
Great. Should we get into it?
Yes. After having listened to all of the episodes and editing them, that's your catchphrase.
What's my catchphrase?
That is your catchphrase.
Oh, do I say that every time?
You say it literally every time with clockwork efficiency.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I'm not sure if clockwork efficiency is even a phrase that people say, but I assume that it is.
Well, should we get into it? I think it's a nice, like, it initiates, gets us into the mood. You know what I mean? It's like lighting a couple of candles before a nice dinner.
It's a good catchphrase to say before you, it's a good catchphrase to say before you launch into like some theme music.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know.
And then do like that slow dissolve in where it's like just chatting about the film or contextualizing it, and then you get right into like the volume comes up all the way, and then it's like a nice segue into the podcast.
Yes. So feel free to say it again.
Well, should we get into it?
Yes. Let's get into it.
This is From Justin to Kane, a podcast where Mike Robertson and Bob LaRue watch one critically acclaimed film and one terrible film and talk about how they are the same. All right, let's do it. Do you want to go first, Mike?
I'll go first. I'll talk about Ready Player One.
Okay.
So Ready Player One is a movie based on a book. I wouldn't call it a film. I'd call it a movie.
Definitely.
So yeah, Ready Player One is based on a book. It's directed by the great Steven Spielberg. Mm-hmm. You can believe it. And it was released in 2018 based on the book by Ernest Cline. The book was released in 2011. The movie and book is set in a dystopia of 2045, follows the protagonist, Wade Watts, as he is in search of an Easter egg in a worldwide virtual reality game. That is the description lifted right from Wikipedia.
Nice.
The book was a New York Times bestseller, and it was translated into 20 different languages. It's a pop culture, like, explosion, I guess, is what you could say. Every page is just littered with so many references to pop culture.
Yeah.
The film rights to the book were purchased by Warner Brothers the day after he finalized his publishing deal with Random House. So somehow this Ernest Cline guy managed to get like incredible demand for this book of his, both in the publishing world and in the movie making of that book. Yeah, I have no idea how he did it. I could not find that information out because that's what something I was interested in is like, how the hell did this guy manage to just create so much intensity for this book before it even came out? And it did go on to sell a lot of books.
No, but I heard it was a good book. I was talking to my friend yesterday about it, and he was saying that the book is amazing, and the film is not a good representation of the book.
Who's your friend? I'd like to know.
Is the book bad?
I think the movie's actually better than the book. I've read half
shit.
of the book. I could not finish the book because I found it quite hard to get through.
Right. Well, dang.
The book and the movie have both been poorly reviewed. Mm-hmm. It's been positively reviewed by nerds, I guess, by people who really like that kind of thing. One quote that I found that I thought was kind of funny. It was described by the Daily Beast as a terribly written piece of adolescent fantasy that at heart exemplifies everything wrong with nerd culture. It's a lionization of immature things and immaturity as an end of itself and to itself.
Wow.
So there you go.
Okay.
So Spielberg was signed on to direct this film in 2015. It was made over the course of several years. And during this time, he made Bridge of Spies and The Post while he was making Ready Player One.
Which are both great films.
Yes. And when you're just like, wow, this guy's either a workaholic or something else must have been going on. And my theory is just that Spielberg basically just kind of showed up every once in a while to direct the movie. And the rest was kind of done by the special effects director.
Right.
So there was a lot of just Spielberg kind of coming in, phoning it in, and then going off and making something he actually cared about. Mm-hmm. Interesting facts about the book is that it had an elaborately hidden Easter egg similar to the movie. And if you solved the puzzle, you got a reproduction of a DeLorean.
Like a toy?
No, like the actual car.
Oh, what? Did anyone solve it?
I think so. I didn't find out who won or what was up with that. But
they got a real DeLorean if they solved a puzzle in this book?
I guess so.
That's insane. What a dumb idea. Who wants a DeLorean? I guess people want a DeLorean. I take it back. But also, like, the audacity, like, that. What if you're like, this puzzle will be impossible. No one will ever solve it. And then the few people who bought the book all solved it. And all of a sudden, you're out a bunch of DeLorean replicas.
Oh, I know.
That's just asking for trouble.
I know. 2 more facts about the film. Mm-hmm. They used virtual reality Oculus goggles. The actors were wearing them, and they were basically acting with motion capture suits on, and they could see the virtual world as they were acting it. So they were acting in this virtual world in real time, similar to the characters being in the VR thing, which is, I guess, pretty cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
And also, bet you're wondering how they got the rights to all of the pop culture crap in this movie.
Yeah, yeah.
Supposedly, the producer, Christy McCosco, spent 3 years getting the rights to everything, and they couldn't get the rights to all the ones that they wanted. But
is there a list of stuff that was never okayed?
No, I could not find that.
Oh, okay.
Nor did I look.
It's amazing what they got. Like, they got King Kong, and then Back to the Future, The Shining, like pretty insane references that are all huge franchises.
Yeah, and it's spanning multiple different production companies. It's like, it would make sense if it was a Warner Brothers movie and all of the things came from Warner Brothers.
Mm-hmm. But it doesn't.
They were from everything.
Yeah.
There's so many things that it was impossible to kind of catch it all in one sitting.
Right.
I thought when I watched it, I was just like, how does anybody notice all of this crap? You also have to kind of really know your pop culture to really, really get it.
And yet, Mike, you didn't watch the film immediately after watching it the first time.
No.
You didn't give it that rewatch it deserved.
Yeah, it's a good movie to cover on this podcast because there's references to movies that we've done already, including like Akira.
Right.
And maybe other ones. I can't remember. There might have been a Babysitter's Club in there. There might be Vertigo.
Yeah, there might be.
It could be Xanadu for all we know.
I'm struggling to even remember all the pop culture references. I just remember The Shining really distinctly for obvious reasons because there's that whole sequence in room 237.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm actually reading The Shining right now, so that's embarrassing that I don't know that.
I have that book as well, and I stopped reading it, but we could be doing a book club together, but we're not.
Well, yeah, we could be. I'm actually using my copy of The Shining to weigh down this mic stand.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because it's a hard copy. I got it for $2 out of a little bin.
Also one thing, speaking of The Shining, mm-hmm. The Shining is not in the book. They do like a recreation of the movie War Games in the book.
Right, with that's with Matthew Broderick, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the movie and the book are like obsessed with 80s pop culture. And that kind of makes more sense. It seems more in line. I thought when I watched the movie that the Shining thing really stuck out as not fitting.
No, it seemed weird. Actually, I read somewhere that Steven Spielberg did it because he and Stanley Kubrick were friends, and he wanted to reference his friend's filmography, and he thought that The Shining was the best movie to use. Yeah,
I mean, I agree and I disagree. I've kind of found that the Shining reference made the Ready Player One movie better because I was like, ooh, this is good. We're in The Shining. But it was only because they were in The Shining. It was like interesting by proxy.
Well, yeah, that's not actually bettering the film. That's just making you feel like you're watching The Shining again.
Yeah, it was a great way of summarizing the movie as a whole. Just being like, when you're watching the movie and the Shining sequence happens and you just feel good And you're like, this is great. I feel good when I'm watching this, but it's because of the nostalgia overload.
Yeah.
And you get tricked into thinking that you're watching something that you like.
But that's also what the whole film is leaning on, is this nostalgia overload. I don't know. I think that's what the film is banking on. And evidence as to why it doesn't feel like a great film when you're watching it is because it's leaning on that a little too much, I think. From what I can remember. Yeah. Again, I saw this movie 2 months ago, month and a half ago. So it's been a while.
Yeah. Well, Spielberg himself even talked about the nostalgia and how he appreciated that about it. So one of the master filmmakers, one of the greatest living filmmakers alive right now, still falls prey to the perils of indulging in too much nostalgia.
We're all fallible,
Yeah.
Okay, so, great. Any more facts, Mike?
No, I think I got all the kind of interesting ones.
Cool.
And it's a good summary of kind of just the making of the movie without indulging and bashing the property too much.
Yeah. I have to say you have a lot more material than I do on my film. Well, that's okay. But there is some interesting stuff. So Portrait of a Lady on Fire was released in 2019. It's competed at the Cannes Film Festival for the Palme d'Or. It lost to Parasite, which is another great film. But it won the Best Screenplay Award and also won the, it's called the Queer Palm, which is they now have an award since 2010. There's been an LGBTQ+ film that wins an award every year at Cannes since 2010. And this is the first time that a female director has won that award, which is interesting. It was written and directed by a woman named Celine Sciamma. Everyone's French in the film. So she wrote and directed it. And it's starring, it's either Nomi Merlant or Noemi Merlant and Adele Haenel. This film is interesting. There's no soundtrack. All the music that comes from it is diegetic. There's an a cappella section, and then there's a section when one of the characters plays like a piano thing that sounds cool and old.
Yeah.
But there's no actual soundtrack. And supposedly that was because the director wanted the film to be more like a dance, and it was about the rhythm of the performance and the proximity of the actors and how they were in space and time with one another. And that was the music of the film. It was filmed digitally, not to get in the weeds, but it was filmed digitally. They chose to film digitally over film because they wanted it to feel really contemporary. So they shot it in 8K. They tried to get the widest dynamic range they could. They wanted it to be like a digital film, super contemporary. They didn't want it to be timeless, which film has that vibe, I guess, for certain filmmakers. And instead, they decided to go the digital route, which is interesting.
That's a lot of K.
Yeah, it's more than most, that's for sure.
That's more K than necessary, dare I say?
I think so. But it's a beautiful movie, and it's very painterly. The way they shoot it is very painterly, so I'm not complaining. I was into it the whole time. It was hard to make notes while watching the film because I was so compelled.
Yeah.
This film has quite a few paintings in it, obviously, by virtue of the title and the narrative. They were painted by Helen Delmare. And what's interesting is she would paint during the production. So she would watch the blocking, she would watch how they're shooting, she would look at the lighting in the room, and then she would paint. And apparently it was 18 hours a day, 5-6 days a week, supposedly. And she, for the whole 35-day shoot, she was there painting. And her hand is actually in the film when there's close-ups of painting and brushstrokes and stuff. That's her hand. But then for the wider shots, they would use the actress. But the actor and the painter have used different hands for painting, which is interesting. And I didn't notice that at the time. I don't know if they faked it or if they just straight up were like, nobody's going to notice a lefty and a righty both painting. But anyways, that's kind of interesting.
I mean, I didn't notice that.
Yeah, I didn't notice either. That's about it. It did very well, but its timing is bad. So it was bought by Hulu to be distributed in North America. So its theatrical release was cut short, I think, because it kind of came out right when COVID started to get nasty in North America and Europe. So
Yeah, because I've been waiting for this film to come out for quite a while.
Yeah.
I remember hearing about it last year, and it was excited to see it, and it was really hard to find because it wasn't released yet. That was why.
Yeah, and then with COVID, they just decided to go to online distribution pretty much, which makes sense. And at least we got to see it. Like, it's a great film. I'm really glad I finally saw it, and the hype is worth it.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think. Like, it's
Also,
really phenomenal.
The online distribution thing is not necessarily a bad thing.
No, I don't think so.
Because the hype is still there, and it's easier than normal for people to see the film.
Yeah.
And this has been proven by none other than Trolls World Tour. I don't know if you've
the
been
animated
barraged
movie.
by all of the different ads for the Trolls World Tour movie, but that movie didn't get a chance to really make a theatrical impact.
Right.
And then it really just kind of was on VOD for its entire run, and it did really, really well.
Do you know offhand how much money it made?
I think it was between 150 and 200 something million.
That's from people like ordering it off of. Wow. Holy.
But they also, because it was it came out right as the coronavirus hit, they changed the price wasn't $5 to rent it. It was $20 to rent it. So
Well, that's bullshit.
They were pretty much being like, this is direct. This is direct to you as if you were paying, as a paying family to see this. So it's $20 and then the whole family can watch it.
I think that's a crock of shit. It should still be $5, especially during an economic recession. Fuck you, movie makers.
Yeah, just being like Trolls World Tour needs to cost $20 just because. But also, if you're making a movie called Trolls World Tour, it's like you don't care.
I was thinking, just to help with our little side hustle here, we should probably put this podcast behind a paywall.
Oh, yeah.
And $20 a person. So even we should code a system so that if multiple people are listening, say on like a Bluetooth speaker in a room, we still can somehow figure it out, maybe with proximity of cell phones or something like that, like from The Dark Knight. And then if there's 5 people around the speaker, they each have to pay $20. Right. And then if one person's listening, they only have to pay $20. But that way we can make some real money. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Well, I mean, set it up.
I thought you could spearhead the project. We'll talk about it after. This is neither here nor there.
Well, our podcast is available on Stitcher, which you need to pay to access.
Oh,
but
really?
We don't see any of that Stitcher money, even if people were signing up to listen to us, which I don't know why they would, but...
Yeah. Okay, well, that's my movie. We've done your film.
Yeah.
Should we get into some similarities?
Yeah. We can get into some similarities, sure.
I want to ask, did you find this film difficult or easy, or these films difficult or easy to find comparisons?
Oh, I found it fairly easy.
I also found it easy, but I also thought this one was harder than usual.
So just if you've never heard our podcast before, we take 2 films somewhat randomly, I would say. We rarely have like a reason to put them together.
We also have no consistent system. I often will text you, say, let's do this movie, and you'll either say yes or no. Mostly no. Hurtful. Yeah. I'll get over it. And then we somehow just randomly pick 2 films. Often it's because we've both seen one already, so it's, a little more efficient.
First similarity, this one is pretty... This one is pretty surface level.
Yeah.
But both films have a protagonist that is like known for being good at the one skill.
Oh, that's a great one. I didn't have that one.
Yeah, so Parzival and what's her name? Is it Heloise?
Heloise is the one who gets painted.
So, so it's about someone who's good at this skill. So it's Marianne, the painter, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So she's good at painting, and Parzival, Wade Boggs, whatever his name is in the movie.
Oh, yeah.
He's good at, I guess, existing in a virtual world and playing a video game.
Mm-hmm.
So
I love that I didn't have that one. That's awesome.
A real soft opening, but
this one's a little less surface level, but it involves literally touching surfaces. Okay, bear with me. Both films open on a visual medium. So, Portrait of a Lady on Fire. During the credits, we're doing the sexy sketching of the lady, real nice, and then intercutting the credits. The opening of Ready Player One, if I can remember correctly, this might be wrong. They start in the video game.
Yeah.
Right? And you can see like, there's pop culture references everywhere. There's representations of like films and video games and characters and comics and blah, blah, blah. So both films kind of open like in a visual medium that isn't film itself.
Right. Very good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Starting it off hyper surface level.
Yeah.
But for Ready Player One, always appropriate.
What's the next one there, Mike?
Well, is there a point in Ready Player One where it says the word Ready Player One on screen?
Yeah.
As in like not in as a title, but as a thing that the character is being told to play?
I think so.
Yeah. It's been a while since I saw it as mentioned. So the similarity is that the title of the film is very literal. So Ready Player One is what you say when the player of the game is going to start. Yeah. And then Portrait of a Lady on Fire. In the movie, you see a portrait of a lady who is on fire.
Yes.
They're painting a portrait of a lady who is on fire.
Mm-hmm. Quite literally on fire.
Yeah, she actually literally is on fire. And then also at a certain point, there's a portrait of a lady which is on fire. Does that make sense? I did it 3 different ways.
There's some intense imagery. There's often characters in front of a fire, and the fire will be between them, and the depth will look like it's totally between them and not in front of them. There's a lot of moments where they frame fire into the female characters in frame.
Yeah, but I was surprised right off the top of the movie that you see a portrait of a lady who is on fire.
Yeah.
And then later, that lady is actually on fire.
Yeah.
And then also, at one point, a portrait is on fire.
Also, it's a portrait of that lady.
I know.
Because Marianne burns it.
And it's cool that they went so literal with it, because you usually don't see that in movies, especially ones that are this good, where they're just like, you know what, we're going to really go for it. We're going to show you what the title is right off the top.
Totally. I think a lot of filmmakers worry that that's like an eye roll moment, like, oh boy, here we go. But it works so well in this film. The movie is literally, it's so like simple and beautiful and nuanced, and it's about a lady on fire in multiple meanings.
Yes.
Sometimes literally, sometimes emotionally, sometimes spiritually, and also sometimes, again, literally. That's a good one. Nice, Mike.
Thank you.
Both films are meta about art representing characters and what their inner feelings are. So in Portrait of a Lady on Fire, this portrait. Oh, I should also say this portrait is done. It's a wedding portrait. So yes. Marianne is hired to make this portrait because the person she's painting is going to be married off if the person likes the portrait. So that's where the tension lies. But so in these portrait sessions and in the way they make this painting, the first one they do isn't good enough. And it represents anger. It represents emotional turmoil. And then they do a second one. And then you see that now they know each other better. They like each other. They've kind of understood one another. And the painting represents this. And I think in Ready Player One, because you can pick your avatar, you represent how you look. And both films are it's about a character representing itself, not literally, but through a form of artwork. So it's painting in Portrait of a Lady on Fire. And it's these avatars. And like how the female lead in Ready Player One, whose name escapes me, who has like the birthmark and says she's not pretty, but she is, classic Hollywood movie.
Artemis. Her name is Artemis. I don't remember what her character's real name was. But
Artemis. That's her avatar name. Okay, we'll just call her Artemis. Fuck it, whatever.
Artemis with a 3 in it.
Oh, I hate that. Okay, whatever. So Artemis and the main guy, they both represent themselves and how they want to be represented. But then they learn that maybe they don't need to represent themselves like that as they learn to love each other and they get closer and more personal. So both films kind of like play with this. Sorry, that was pretty long-winded, but I thought it was a very good point.
Well, and also, if I can tag on to the end of that,
yeah, you can.
They're painting this painting to sell it or to show this guy in Italy who she's going to get married off to.
Yeah.
Not unlike in Ready Player One, the great virtual world that the oasis that everybody's so obsessed with is being sold off to the IOI Corporation.
Right.
So it's this virtual facsimile of reality that is being sold off essentially.
Oh yeah, that's interesting. Both mediums are being sold.
Yeah, they're being kind of auctioned off to the highest bidder.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, it's the corporation, which I mean, we can get into the weeds of Ready Player One and how dumb it is, but just the fact that it's like the big central conflict is that a big corporation is like the bad guy in this movie. It's like they couldn't figure out what the real bad guy was because the whole film worships corporate intellectual property, and yet the bad guy is a corporation.
And then it was a weird choice because then it was just like the one guy. I don't know if he was the CEO per se, but he's like the higher up. He's a chief something officer of the IOI corporation, and then he's spearheading everything. And they kind of make him the bad guy, but you don't know him, and he's not out for anyone personally. It's just it's like a movie that's about a systemic issue, but they do a really bad job of portraying that, and you can't care about anybody because if you're just looking at something systemic, there's no empathy or sympathy there, and there's no emotion. You're just like, yeah, that's not good. You need to learn about the people involved in order to care.
It's so weird because the type of person who would love this movie also would worship, Disney buying Marvel or Disney buying Star Wars. Like they would love all the other movies that are...
Mike, I need to piggyback right now. I just had a thought. Okay. So Ready Player One is about a corporation trying to buy something that is filled with corporations and like intellectual property, and the whole conceit of the film is that it's a bad thing. Like corporations are bad, and you could say the same thing about A Portrait of a Lady on Fire. In that the film, obviously, the filmmakers love art, but the central conflict of this portrait is once it is complete, the two lovers can no longer be lovers because they both have to part ways. So this painting. The film is reverential of art, but the art is also what's going to cause the divide amongst the characters. So I think both films kind of use like the medium or the thing that the film is addressing as the like central conflict of the plot, but is also appreciating and like a fan of the thing that's in the film. Like Spielberg obviously loves pop culture. The filmmaker who wrote this film, Portrait of a Lady on Fire, obviously loves Renaissance artwork. And both films use that, love it, represent it, but it's also the central sort of conflict of the film.
Nice.
And both films deal with systemic issues because 17th or 18th century France, to be gay is like totally out of the question and not okay, especially if you're a lady, because you're often forced to marry people, especially if you're part of nobility. So systemically, they're dealing with an issue of the time, and it is a queer film, and it's talking about that. And yet we learn about the characters, so we love them and we care about them and we feel the anguish that they feel. But in Ready Player One, it's a systemic issue, but we don't give a flying fuck about any of the characters.
Well, I think they both kind of explore systemic issues in that the Portrait of a Lady on Fire, the thing you said about kind of being queer in that time would have been...
it's criminal.
Yeah. Whereas in Ready Player One, it's not necessarily criminal to be a man-child, but it is definitely a systemic issue and the cause of all of the world's problems.
But it was it's a crime to be a man-child, according to that one review you read.
Yes, and I agree with that.
I'm in agreement. Yeah, I agree too. Okay, cool. What's your next one?
Both Ready Player One and Portrait of a Lady on Fire are both about a protagonist who is after a mysterious woman that they're pursuing. They eventually get and then kind of concentrate on the vanity of. Maybe not vanity, but the appearance of.
That's a good one. Nice. I like it because often when we do this, you'll say something and I'm like, oh, I wrote that down too. But so far, I haven't really written down any of the points you've made.
Oh, that's good.
Which is really good. Yeah. We're finally figuring it out, Mike. Wow. Both films feature characters pretending to be what they're not. So in Ready Player One, these characters use avatars to represent themselves in a way that they feel is cooler or better or will give them more status. And literally no one looks like what they actually look like. And I would say in Portrait of a Lady on Fire, the two main characters are also pretending to not be who they really are. And that's true in the portrait, and that's true in their everyday life. So I think both films deal with characters who are just trying to not be themselves in order to better themselves and fit in.
Well, also both films have a character who is queer, who is pretending to not be.
Oh, I didn't even... Right. Yeah.
Yeah, which is not a thing that I wrote down, but the character H or H, whatever, I don't remember. I just read it recently.
How's it spelled?
Yeah, the character H is supposedly a lesbian in the movie.
Oh, really?
And is played by Lena Waithe, who is in real life.
Oh, okay. Interesting. That's good. That's an even better similarity, Mike, than mine, because that's like more spot on. Nice.
I'm not even sure if that character existed in the book, but the movie seemed to go out of its way to fix a lot of the diversity and gender problems. It didn't accomplish it necessarily, but it did a better job.
We tried. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, it did a lot better than the book from what I read of the book before I had to put it down and just say never again.
Did you burn it?
No. Portrait of a Ready Player One book on fire.
Whoa, nice. That should be the cover of this episode. If we had the budget to make a separate poster for every episode and mash the two movies, that's what it would be. Ready Player One in a moonlit field with a little piece of flame in the lower right corner.
Well, you're not a movie podcast that's made it unless you're able to Photoshop your face onto the movie posters that you're talking about.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe we can work towards that. Okay. Both films pictorially reference previous art. So I definitely got some. I don't have any reading or documentation to back this claim up, but a lot of the framing in A Portrait of a Lady on Fire felt very painterly in the way they were using sort of like Vermeer lighting and like very heavy like window lighting and playing with dark and light, but also the way it's framed felt very painterly, and a lot of the takes are very long. So it really felt like you're looking at a painting instead of having like a cut. The coverage was very painterly. And then, and that they're like referencing the thing they're talking about. And in Ready Player One, I felt they were doing the same thing, like with the Shining sequence or other sequences where they would literally delve into the pop culture reference. And you would see it, like you'd see the door of 237 or the blood coming out of the elevator or whatever, or even just random, like there's so many like cameos of just famous, I don't know, I feel like Sonic maybe walked through the movie, or like, just fucking Crash Bandicoot or something. I don't know, random characters. Maybe The Incredibles, maybe Shrek made an appearance.
Shrek was definitely in there somewhere.
Well, he had to be because Steven Spielberg is part of DreamWorks, so he better be. But yeah, just like both films pictorially represent the thing that they're also talking about and referencing, and I thought that was pretty cool. And it's interesting how different they were. Obviously, the painterly one was a little stronger, but this isn't a shit talk Ready Player One podcast. But I really want to.
You want to?
I always want to shit talk the bad movie on every episode.
Oh yeah, I know.
It's really it's like I feel like it's a real exercise in self-control.
Yeah, but also we've talked about this in the past. Like, where does it get you? It feels good, but also it's not necessarily interesting to just be like, oh, that's so bad.
Exactly. It's like scratching your eczema rash, knowing full well it's only going to make the eczema worse.
Just screaming it sucks and then laughing does not qualify as a joke.
Yeah.
But, has anything we've said qualified as a joke so far?
I was told that our first episode is very funny.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah. By more than one person.
That's nice. Well, that's nice.
Yeah.
Okay, this is I've got some real doozies, but this one is not one of them. So, or maybe it is. Maybe it is. Maybe I'm looking at this differently. Both films kind of have a exploration of art forms, dare I say, that begin with a wireframe. So in Portrait of a Lady on Fire, when she's drawing the person, she just draws like a very loose wireframe, kind of like rendering of what the shape of the person is. Similar to how someone creates a CG character.
Wow, that is a deep cut, dude.
Yeah. When I saw that, I was like, oh yeah, this kind of reminds me of what I've seen of CG kind of renderings in the past. So.
Totally. Like Shrek.
Oh, like Shrek.
Like Shrek behind the scenes. You can see him like walking beside Donkey holding an onion, but it's all just a bunch of wires.
Yeah. Another one I'll tag on to that is both of them kind of explore the uncanny valley in a way. Mm-hmm. In that the Ready Player One film is so like far up its own butt about motion capture technology. Like it really seems like they're going out of their way to show you, hey, look how great we are at motion capturing. And honestly, it does look pretty cool and fairly realistic for the most part. But then there's also a lot of time where you're just like, this is not real. This is the uncanny valley. And same with the painting in Portrait of a Lady on Fire. They obsess over whether or not the face looks like the face.
Yeah. And it
so
does.
The uncanny valley is a theme in both films.
All right. I got a real loosey-goosey one here for you, okay?
I like them loosey-goosey.
I like them loosey-goosey too. Let's pepper a couple in before we get into the home runs here. Okay. Both films have a strong focus on numbers. So
this is loosey-goosey if I've ever seen a loosey-goosey one.
Okay. So in Ready Player One is in the title, and that's representing a number.
Right.
And also in the Shining sequence, there's room. It's 237, yeah?
It is room 237.
Yeah,
yes.
so, and specifically the number 2 has a lot of importance in both films. So there's room 237, and obviously a lot of shenanigans happens in The Shining, and a lot of shenanigans happens in Ready Player One in room 237. For Portrait of a Lady on Fire, the number 28 has strong importance because
that's right.
That is the page of the book that Marianne gives, and she also sketches herself nude via mirror leaning on a crotch of herself. And then at the end of the film, she goes to see that portrait of her previous lover who now has a child, and you can see just a little inkling of 28 as the book is folded up. So both films, that's important. And what do you get? So
the secret is contained within the number, is what you're saying.
Yes, specifically the number 2. And also both films have couples of 2 people.
Well, yeah, no.
I'm getting into like Freemasons territory here, but
well, I was going to say both involve the number 2 followed by an even number. And I know what you're thinking. 237 is not an even number, but when you add 3 and 7 together, it equals 10.
Yes.
Which is 2 more than 8. So 28 and 2, 10.
I was going to make a joke and say, what do you get if you add 3 and 7 and subtract 2?
Yes.
8. Both films have a 28 in them.
Yeah.
Also, I would wager the age of some of the characters in Ready Player One are 28. So I don't know. Kind of interesting. Yeah. So yeah, that's one of my spicy deep cuts.
It's real spicy. It's super loosey-goosey.
Super loosey-goosey, real spicy. That's how I like my food. That's how I like my podcasts.
Dare I say you are both of those things. You are loosey-goosey and spicy.
Mike, I love you.
Oh, thank you. So my next one is both films are about characters recalling a great history expressed through art or a virtual rendering of reality. So looking at the painting,
holy
the
shit,
character looks back on a history, just as the Parsifal character is obsessed with the guy who made the Oasis, whatever that guy's name was.
Yeah, that guy who's always in every Steven Spielberg movie.
Yeah, he's good. He's actually
a great
kind of
actor,
the best part of this movie.
But also, like, I get it. Move on. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So that's one. The history is stored in the art. So he has to preserve the Oasis because the great history of, this guy's life is there, plus all of the pop culture crap that he's obsessed with is like kind of started in the Oasis now, which is kind of good that it's all cordoned off, whereas we have to deal with it just being everywhere on the internet and, go outside and look at a billboard and it's Trolls World Tour. And you're like, oh God.
$20 for that's just insane to me. Not to bring it
How
back
much
to
would
that
you
point.
pay to see Trolls World Tour?
Also, didn't look that good.
Well, yeah. When we went and saw a movie and it was the trailer that played before the movie, my partner laughed at all the jokes in the trailer and said, we got to see that.
Have you paid $20 to see the film?
Oh, heavens no, I would never.
Okay, interesting.
I would use a VPN and then BitTorrent it. I'm admitting to my future crimes.
No, Mike, you can't do that, man.
I'm a self-precog referencing another Spielberg movie.
Nice.
And that I can predict my own crimes.
Okay, I got another spicy deep cut here that doesn't make a lot of sense.
Okay.
Ride this ride with me, Mike. So the both films feature a main character trying to see a female character's face with difficulty. Okay.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Sorry, there's like a muscle car idling outside of my house, and I feel like we can definitely hear it, but I'm just going to keep talking anyways. I love where I live. So the both films involves trying to see a female character's face, for real face, with great difficulty, and it takes a while to get there. So in Portrait of a Lady on Fire, we've got Marianne, and she's supposed to be like the buddy of Eloise. And at first, Eloise like never got the previous painters, like he never saw her face. It's obviously established that it's gonna be difficult to see her face. And then Marianne's like, oh no, I'm gonna have a hard time seeing her face. So she pretends to not be a painter for a while. And when they first meet, Eloise leads her with a hood on and is like running and makes her jump through proverbial hoops. And then they finally end up on the coast. And then she turns around and Marianne can see Eloise's face. But it's like more difficult than it needs to be. But also, it's a sexy movie, so I like the foreplay. But in Ready Player One, the main character's name is Mike.
Parzival?
Parzival wants to see the female lead's name?
Artemis.
Artemis. Parzival wants to see Artemis's face for real, but has difficulty because they both have avatars, and she keeps like pushing him away because she doesn't want him to see her face and is insecure, and her avatar is really cool, and she feels that she isn't cool personally, even though she is. That's the moral of the film. And so both films involve characters really wanting to see like the true face of the other character. And there's sort of trials and tribulations to get there and hardship.
Yeah, that's good.
Thank you.
That ties into my next point. One of the main similarities, one of the main themes of both films is just how they explore the gaze, the idea of the gaze in...
Oh, I was wondering where you're going with that one.
Well, because I think that the Portrait of a Lady on Fire really explores the female gaze in a really interesting way.
Yeah.
And Ready Player One just kind of doubles down on the male gaze. So
you mean the man-child's gaze?
The man-child's gaze, yeah. So even though the book is supposedly, from what I understand, I didn't finish it, really bad about the male gaze and everything being about this guy, the woman gets validation from him thinking that she's attractive, even though she doesn't think so. And he's just like, it's okay, whatever. What I think about how you look is important. And then she's like, yeah, great. That's good. In the movie, it's not as poorly done from what I understand, but it still exists in the film.
Yeah.
And she kind of ends up being the reward at the end of the movie, which is kind of typical male gaze storytelling. So both films explore the gaze, you know?
Quite literally.
Quite literally.
And beautifully. Yeah. That's a good one, Mike. Nice. I didn't think about that.
Yes, thank you.
Both films have a meet cute that ends in opposition.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, neither is that comedic, but both films have the main characters meet, and then they leave not liking each other, but are also horny for each other. So you've got that in Ready Player One, and I forgot their names already.
The two main characters in Ready Player One?
Yeah.
Parzival and Artemis with a 3 for the E.
Parzival and Artemis, they meet each other. There's opposition. They're obviously horny for each other. It takes a whole film for them to express that and rectify it and get close or whatever. And in Portrait of a Lady on Fire, Marianne and Eloise, the first time they meet, there's clear tension and opposition, and they're sussing each other out and seeing if they're going to like each other. And there's like a beautiful moment where Marianne is worried because she hasn't seen Eloise smile, and then the assistant in the house is like, "Have you tried being funny?" Which is a great line. But they both have the first encounter, and then it's like they're attracted to each other, but they don't like each other yet. And both films play with this dynamic in a unique way. One virtually and one literally, but in the 1800s, in the 1770s France.
Very good.
Thank you.
Well, from that perspective, both explore time periods that are not the current time. One's going one direction, the other one's going the other direction.
Actually, what's interesting is Ready Player One goes both directions. It goes behind us and ahead of us.
Yeah, you're right.
And Portrait of a Lady on Fire also goes behind us and ahead of us. So the film takes place in the 1770s. It's about painting. And realistically, those paintings from the film will last longer than you and I will. We're going to die. We're going to wither. We're going to become husks. But those paintings, if kept okay. Like they're in galleries and stuff now from the film. They'll probably live on for the rest of humanity, similar to how Van Gogh, Vermeer, Albrecht Dürer, Hieronymus Bosch, those paintings are still around. People paying a lot of money for them. They're going to transcend time, and so will these paintings. So I'd say both films are going past us and behind us.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Both of the movies are about characters who are obsessed with the conventions of the art in that time period.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, you know, what's his face? Parzival, you know, he's obsessed with just like how the world works in Ready Player One, and how it was kind of created by that guy that he worships.
Right.
And in Portrait of a Lady on Fire, there's a part where they were like, why don't you paint it like this? And then she's like, it's just not how it's done.
Right.
Do you remember that?
That was a great scene.
You should. You watched it an hour ago.
Oh, I could quote scenes from that film. The beautiful thing about subtitles is you have to read, and I find it easier to memorize lines that way. The poignancy of some of the dialogue from Portrait of a Lady on Fire was just making me feel a lot of things.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, you described it in text as a very horny movie.
Yeah, but horny in an elegant way.
That's my favorite kind of horny, is an elegant horniness.
Yeah, I thought it was elegantly horny. I felt elegantly horny. I thought it was just a stunning film. The like love and lust was palpable, similar to Call Me by Your Name.
Oh yeah,
both of those movies. Now I got two movies that make me feel things. Anyways,
and well, I would say that the Ready Player One is not a elegantly horny movie, but it's a horny movie nonetheless.
It's a man-child kind of horny.
It's a what? Yeah, it's a man-child kind of horny. It's
like the Pornhub equivalent of film love.
Yeah, he's horny for the woman character, but he's mostly horny for all of the pop culture crap that's in it, which I think is the classic kind of modern man-child's dilemma. Should I be with woman, or should I be with woman rendered on pillow? You know?
Woman rendered on pillow.
Yeah.
That's
you know
great.
What I'm talking about, right?
Oh, yeah. Full body pillows.
Yeah.
You
got a couple of those.
I'm well aware. I own
pillows.
a few, okay? Cut that out, Mike. Please cut that out.
I have another good one.
Okay, good. My last one is a home run. It's a doozy. I've been saving my last one because it's I think it's gonna blow your socks off.
Okay. Well, I have my next one is in both films, games are an opportunity for flirting. In Portrait of a Lady on Fire, they play cards and some other games, and that's when they kind of like make it clear to each other that they kind of got the hots for each other.
Yeah.
And, you know, Ready Player One is all about these guys playing video games. So I don't think I need to spell that one out, but.
That's a great one, Mike. Nice.
Also, in both films, characters wear masks.
Oh, yeah.
Both, like in Ready Player One, it's a figurative mask because they're wearing a literal mask. Well, it's a figurative and literal mask in that they're an avatar.
Yeah.
But then also they wear goggles, which is like a mask of some kind. And then Lady on Fire, they wear masks when they go outside.
Isn't Darth Vader in Ready Player One?
I wouldn't be surprised.
I think he is. And if he is, mask. Pretty sure Batman's in there. Mask.
Oh, well, Chun-Li. No, wait, Chun-Li doesn't wear a mask, but a Mortal Kombat character is probably in there.
Yeah. That's a good
somebody
one,
wearing
Mike.
a mask, but I'm talking about the main characters.
Right.
But yeah, there's definitely a pop culture, you know, you Crash Bandicoot's wearing a friggin' COVID mask. Who knows?
Okay. So here's my home run. Oh,
I'm excited for this.
Both films, Mike, okay? Both films have two things. Pop culture within them from their respective era, and have stories within stories. So in Ready Player One, we literally go into Shining, which is both a novel and a film and a television series written and directed by Stephen Kane, and now several sequels.
Right.
And in Portrait of a Lady on Fire, there is a scene where they are reading from Eurydice, and then it's later represented as a painting, and it's talked about at the end of the film. And so both films play with pop culture and storytelling within storytelling to actually talk about the main story of the film. So in The Shining, they need to accomplish something in order to learn more about each other and get the Easter egg. In Eurydice, there's a moral center of that story and how it relates to the love between Marianne and
Eloise.
Yes, thank you. And how those two things relate. And then we see The Shining. We live in The Shining in the film. And then you can see Eurydice being painted by Marianne, but it's new. It's different. It's updated. It's Marianne's take. Because this is after her experience with Eloise.
Yeah, because that guy mansplains is like, this is not what Eurydice is like.
I know. He's like, normally the person's not turned. Also, another cool thing, this is not a similarity because there's a lot of men in Ready Player One. There are so few men in Portrait of a Lady on Fire. And I think the max amount of lines a guy has is 2 lines.
Right.
It's awesome.
Yeah. Well, it's a similarity in that they both focus on one gender.
I like that, Mike. Nice.
Well, I'll build on that one with a small one. The Shining house is not too different from the house that the characters live in that it's kind of a big old kind of mansion that's got a lot of ghosts in it.
Yeah.
Because there's a ghost of Heloise who keeps appearing.
Eloise. I think the H is silent because it's French. Similar to how my last name, you wouldn't say the H.
Yeah, because if you're a European, if you're British, you wouldn't say the H, and if you're French, you wouldn't say it.
Yeah, and if it's an H in front of a vowel, it's silent. Yeah,
so anyway, the ghost of Eloise is still... the ghost of Eloise haunts the house, even though she's in the house somewhere. Mm-hmm. And Marianne always sees her as a ghost or some sort of... what's it called when you see something in the desert?
Oh, a mirage.
Yeah, she's a mirage.
Yeah.
And Ready Player One takes place in the Oasis.
Oh, shit, dog.
A lot of desert imagery, dare I say.
Nice. Okay, let's do a rapid fire round, so hit me with it.
Okay, speed round, lightning round. 60% of the way through both films, there is a party with banging tunes where characters exchange longing looks and then take each other's hands.
Ooh, that's a good one, Mike. Nice.
Yeah, tagging off that one. There's a THX 1138 reference in both films.
Okay, what?
Now, hear me out. In Ready Player One, in the book, I know they reference THX 1138 in that they describe the IOI offices as being similar.
Right.
And I think that Spielberg, being a friend of George Lucas, would have rendered them that way as well. And then in Portrait of a Lady on Fire, when those women sing that song at the campfire, the way that they sing off the top
sounds like the THX logo.
Sound. Yeah. Because when I heard that, I was like, is the THX sound happening? What's going on? And then it was the women singing, and then they start doing that little
It was really nice. That acapella music was
bop.
fucking awesome.
Yeah.
It started off eerie, and then it turned beautiful so quickly.
Yeah, it was pretty rocking.
Spielberg is famous for doing subtle oneers. Like either oneers where the camera doesn't move, or it's really subtle movement, and it's all about really classic blocking. And like, there's great examples in Jaws or all the Indiana Jones films where they're like, oh man, they didn't cut for 4 minutes, and you wouldn't even notice, because it's not like a oneer where it's like, you know, the filmmaker's whacking off being like, look at this, like went from a crane to a whatever to whatever. It's just very subtle movements to keep everyone in nice blocking. And Portrait of a Lady on Fire does the same thing. A lot of the shots are really long, and it's all about the blocking and the spatial relationship between the characters. So I think both movies kind of do that, and that's a convention shared by both directors.
Yeah, that's good. Well, yeah, one thing about when I was watching Ready Player One, I really noticed was that the parts that were live action, you could really see that Spielberg was directing them, because the camera work was really slow, graceful, and had a lot of oneers. It was just really well blocked, I thought.
Yeah.
And then when you watch the CG parts, it's like the camera's going everywhere. It's crazy. It's kind of nauseating to watch half the time.
Yeah.
Also, it really made me think that he probably didn't even really do too much directing in the CG stuff.
He probably, like, over FaceTime, like, once a week was like, yeah, that looks great, guys.
Yeah, exactly. Because he made 2 other movies which were really well done, kind of complicated films while he was making this movie. Like, did you ever see Bridge of Spies?
Oh, yeah, great movie. I loved it.
Yeah.
Both of those films were nominated for Best Picture, I think.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
The
Ready Player One was not.
No. That really goes to show, like, was this like thumbprint really on the movie, or was he kind of in and out and just collecting a pretty dope paycheck?
He probably thought it was an easy paycheck for sure.
Yeah.
One thing I found an interesting connection was the main female character in Ready Player One goes by the name Artemis with a 3. So I looked up Artemis because I knew that name from Greek history or whatever. So I looked it up, and she's the protector of young girls, one of the primary goddesses of childbirth and midwifery.
Oh, shit.
And in the film, both of the 2 women, I wouldn't describe them as that, but they are the protector of the young girl.
Yeah, and then there's also that scene where that woman is on the bed, and there's like a baby and a little girl, and then that, like, the opposite of a midwife, I guess, but is performing that procedure, and it seems like they're all taking care of each other, and it's like a multi-generational safety net of support. That scene was really beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. So I would say both films explore the goddess of childbirth and midwifery on some level.
Definitely. Yeah.
You know, I think the name Artemis in Ready Player One was just a very dumb, obvious character name for a woman from a guy who doesn't probably interact with them all that much.
Yeah. Is the author of Ready Player One an incel by any chance?
No, he's married. So
okay.
He definitely doesn't fall into the literal definition of being involuntarily celibate.
No,
he has been under fire on the internet for his sexist writings. Like, he wrote some other books or stories or something that were put on the internet. I think he wrote a short story and put it on the internet, and it had a lot of really, really sexist imagery and just kind of looked at women as objects.
Right.
So, male gaze, going back to that.
I think that's the underlying thing. I also think A Portrait of a Lady on Fire could not have been made by a male director.
No.
In such a beautiful and, like, poetic, sincere way, and, like, with so much impact. It was incredible. The movie shook me to my core.
A lot of the time nowadays, you always hear people complaining, it's like, why are there men not writing more movies about women? And it's like, that's true. But then also, they just need to be creating space for women to tell stories about women more, I would say, than having, Spielberg go and tell if Spielberg made this movie, it wouldn't be the same movie. If Ernest Cline wrote this story, it would definitely not be the same story. So it's more about, giving women the space to do that kind of a movie, because you never see a movie like this otherwise.
Yeah, that's true.
I know it's a lot different in France. In Hollywood, we have a female director problem.
Definitely. Yeah, is that the end of your list?
Yes, that's all I had.
Same here, dog. Same here.
Dog? Are you trying that out? Are you testing it out?
No, I say dog sometimes.
I don't think I've ever heard you say dog.
Maybe I don't say it with you, Mike.
Okay.
I have too much respect for you, but not anymore. Not since there's been a global pandemic.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so any final thoughts on the 2 movies? Which one did you like better?
I love Ready Player One. I don't like reading, so I didn't like Portrait of a Lady on Fire. I think they both have merit, obviously, and they're both very interesting. I think they're both unique, like truly unique. Like Ready Player One is a cool idea. It's very interesting to make a film that's like so heavily based in pre-existing pop culture and sort of looking at the implications of that and like what does post pop culture look like? Like how does pop culture evolve and what is it like to look back? And I think Portrait of a Lady on Fire is really unique because it's a tiny cast, almost no men. It's a queer love story set in the 1770s in France. And so they both have really unique traits. And I think they both have, they're both really cool, but for very different reasons.
Yeah.
But it's because they're both so different from normal film, like normal French cinema or normal US cinema. I think they both kind of stand out, which is cool.
Yeah. Which of these two movies would you rather have on a desert island?
So here's the thing. Normally I would say Portrait of a Lady on Fire, but I think it would be bad to be on a desert island by myself and so horny all the time and wanting, like longing for love. Like I feel like I would become like a involuntarily celibate love addict via watching a beautiful love story continuously and just being like, I want love, but I'm alone. I think psychologically that would fuck me up in a major way. So I'd rather take the cotton candy film, which is Ready Player One. Because you can eat candy and be like, I don't want candy anymore. That hurts my stomach. I'm done. Well, with Portrait of a Lady on Fire, I would just keep watching it and be like, wow, I want love.
Yeah, and I can't have it. Whereas the other one uses nostalgia to numb you. Mm-hmm. So you would just feel appropriately numbed because you're like, oh yeah, Mad Balls or Crash Bandicoot or whatever the hell you saw on screen and be reminded of the
I never saw what is Crash Bandicoot? That's a video game, isn't it?
Yeah, he's a bandicoot, which is an Australian mammal of some kind, and he runs around wearing jorts and jumps on barrels and animals and collects fruit, and it's a platformer, kind of like Mario.
Right.
It was the PlayStation's answer to Mario, Super Mario.
I had it on GameCube, I want to say.
Maybe, yeah.
No, maybe I had a friend who had it. Fuck it. It doesn't matter.
There was one thing I wanted to talk about. Oh, I kind of thought that the ending of Ready Player One, it was just like the dumbest ending, the whole conceit of Ready Player One I thought was actually kind of dumb.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're obsessing with preserving this virtual world because of the world that they live in, like the post-apocalyptic dystopian, whatever kind of world that they live in. They want to escape it.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to preserve the oasis so that they can maintain this escape. And then at the end of the movie, they save the oasis from the big corporation so that they can indulge in all of this apparently copyright-free intellectual property whenever they want.
Yeah.
And that's the end of the movie. And they were just like, yeah, we have numbed ourselves. And that's the good thing. That's the end.
I think it's a similar problem to being like, wow, what a great story. But it's similar to like when you unpack Forrest Gump and you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
In this free market, if you're dumb and white, you can become a king.
Yeah.
And that's similar to Ready Player One in that the message, they succeed, but it's like the goal was to just save the future equivalent of Netflix and be like, now I can just watch TV all day instead of doing anything.
Exactly. I thought it was a really weird ending.
The film would have been beautiful if it had ended with like the main character also gardened on the side and he's like, I love gardening, but gardening's illegal and nothing's grown here in years. And then you just see a little thing sprout. And it's like, maybe nature can come back. Maybe there can be some balance. If the film said something about that, that'd be way fucking better. But instead, it's just like, you're all zombies. Just mindlessly consuming this garbage, this cotton candy of intellectual garbage. And everyone's like, we did it. It's free. We can just pirate it.
Yeah, just even from a structural standpoint, the movie just... When you watch a movie, you have a certain structure in mind when you're watching a movie nowadays. Everybody kind of knows there's only one story.
Yeah.
So you know that a character has to get from point A to point B, blah, 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 all the way to the end. And it follows a specific arc. The character, Parzival, doesn't really change. He knows off the top of the movie that he's obsessed with the Oasis, and then the Oasis is in danger, and then he saves the Oasis, and so he's still indulging in just aimless nostalgia just as a numbing agent.
Yeah.
So he doesn't really end up in a different spot at the end. You're right. He should have wanted to start a garden, or the post-apocalyptic world would have needed to go somewhere else.
He needed to literally do anything else. Anything that's like remotely altruistic, like but also like a human thing, like gardening, or like he wants to become an entrepreneur because his passion is something other than this stupid fucking video game that he's playing. Literally anything else, so that he's like, oh yeah, I'm a small business owner now, and I'm running for city council, and like, wow, there's really great stuff going on, and I have a patent on this cool thing, and I release the patent so other people can benefit from it. Literally anything else, because that would be there would be an actual moral to the story. There's no moral to the story of Ready Player One.
Well, yeah, the movie kind of backs itself up into a corner from the beginning because it lionizes pop culture. It makes this Oasis out to be this great thing that needs to be preserved.
Yeah.
And then the real world is a nightmare. So you don't want to go out into the nightmare world. So it's not like you can be like, hey, go out, just go, hey, nerd, go outside, because nobody wants to go outside because there's drones and there's all these, everybody lives in giant scary towers made out of dumpsters or whatever. So, and I guess there's like a domestic violence subplot that kind of doesn't really go anywhere.
Yeah, they don't really cover that too well. They don't cover that gracefully.
Yeah, his character has no reason to do anything outside of that world.
Yeah.
So because we, as a film-going audience, need the happy ending because that's what makes a movie a movie, then Ready Player One has to give you the happy ending by saving the Oasis, even though the Oasis ultimately is a bad place to be because it kind of numbs you from reality.
Well, yeah, the real problem is that society's so fucked up you need to escape it 24/7, and you have to pay money to escape it by being in that society and perpetuating the thing that makes it awful in the first place. So it's a really ass backwards, self-masturbatory, like, Hollywood's great because it's a great distraction kind of film. I think if you really read into it, it's pretty bizarre.
Yeah. I guess you could say both films really indulge in like kind of the mythos of its own film industry.
Yeah.
So Ready Player One, Hollywood is great. You must numb yourself to escape the horrors of reality. That is good.
Yes.
Whereas European kind of art cinema is depressing or making these choices that Hollywood movies never would dare go.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of Portrait of a Lady on Fire, it has a really sad ending where the two characters see each other in a opera house and they just both are sad. And the movie ends on a really depressing but really romantic note.
No, I want to differ, Mike. Okay. I don't think it's a sad ending. I think it's a happy ending because clearly at least 5 years have transpired since they saw each other, because we see the painting. Yeah. Eloise now has a kid who's like maybe 4 or 5. And then they go to this concert and they're sitting across from each other. One of them doesn't see the other, but one of them does see. And then they both watch this concert. And you know that Eloise is thinking about Marianne, that she hasn't forgotten. Because during that time, I would imagine Marianne would go, Eloise is married, has a child, has a family, has money, has all of these great societal benefits to what she ended up having to do. Maybe she's forgotten me. And then at this concert, you see that she didn't. That's great fucking closure.
Yeah.
That's my 2 cents.
It goes to the place where Ready Player One should have gone, where it says there's a seed of hope for the world or for the characters, instead of saying, let's just indulge in, the numb of nostalgia of pop culture.
Yeah.
Well, I guess they both kind of say the world sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, they do. They both, they both get systemic, I think, and are like good illustrations of huge problems within society and within societies in general.
Yeah.
That there's like major oppression, whether it's social or it's economic.
Also, the character of the mom, who only occasionally appears, she is a famous actor from Europe who had American success in the 90s. She was in the movie Hot Shots and Hot Shots Part 2. So both movies made me say, hey, look, there's a thing I recognize from the 90s.
Right. That's a good final comparison, I think. That's awesome, Mike. Yeah. Cool. I feel good about this one. This one was fun.
Yeah.
And I got to say, Portrait of a Lady on Fire just fucked me up.
Yeah, it was good.
Those texts I sent to you are 100% sincere. I was so moved by the dialogue, the performances, the storytelling, the framing, like just everything was so impactful. Even the pacing just made me feel things because the film goes so long, and then the mother's talking to Marianne, and then the mother laughs because she's talking about that ugly lady that she wants to get a portrait made for. And it's like, I was laughing too, but that's like an hour into the movie. Like there's this beautiful tension and lack of dialogue. And then all of a sudden they're just talking about some ugly lady. Hilarious. It's just, there's such a great patience to that movie that really makes you feel some stuff. I texted a bunch of people after and I was like, if you haven't seen this movie yet, you got to watch it because it's a knockout.
Which is a better 2019 movie? Would you say Parasite or this?
I have to be honest. I think Portrait of a Lady on Fire was better.
Okay. Did you see Uncut Gems?
Yes, I did.
Which was better of those three?
I didn't love Uncut Gems. I'm not a huge.
Okay, there you go.
I don't love the Safdie brothers.
Oh, well, wow.
Yeah.
I'm coming down hard on the Safdies.
No. I get why they're good filmmakers. I just don't have fun when I watch their movies.
Oh, they're not fun.
Like Good Time and Uncut Gems, I was just like, oh my God, what is going on? I'm so stressed out.
Good Time. Not a good time.
No, it's not a good time. It's a bad time. And Uncut Gems is also a bad time.
Yeah, but I guess going back to the pacification of Hollywood, I enjoy a movie that makes you feel a thing, even if that thing is not a positive feeling. Like I really love movies that have that crazy tension.
Yes.
Even if they are not a positive film in the end. Like I think Uncut Gems, you were just feeling it the whole movie. You're just like, I'm going to have stress diarrhea after watching this because it's pretty intense.
I wore a diaper while I watched that movie.
Yeah, you should. Everybody should.
It's stressful. I'm a softie though. Like I like tragic, slow burn, bad feelings, but just high octane, visceral stress. I do not like. I do not like stress. I'm stressed out enough just walking down the street. It's not a good time for me. Like I don't love the idea of going on a roller coaster.
Interesting.
Yeah. I'd rather have my heart broken, Mike.
Aren't some cinematic experiences like being on a roller coaster?
Emotionally, a roller coaster is a different thing than literally being on a roller coaster.
Right.
Because visually, I think a roller coaster is illustrating ebbs and flows, and that you can talk about that emotionally or timing wise or whatever. When you're on a roller coaster, you're literally just going, oh my fucking God, holy shit, what's going on? I can't see or breathe.
Okay, well then I'm going to do the Galaxy Brain next best movie of 2019. Which was better of the three films I mentioned?
Yeah.
Any of those or 2019's Joker?
Oh man, I really like Joker.
You did? Oh, okay, wow. I was being ironic there.
No, I really enjoyed Joker. I'm glad you and I don't agree on everything. Yeah, I had to phone somebody right after Joker. I phoned my friend Gordy. Because I was like, this is such a great film. And it fucked me up a whole bunch. I loved it. Did you not like it?
I didn't like it, no.
Oh, interesting.
I liked it when I saw it. When I originally watched it, I was like, this was the best superhero movie, period.
Okay.
Because it actually was pretty daring to be like, we're going to make a movie that's about a superhero. I guess the Joker here being a superhero, and that he's a comic book character. We're going to make a comic book movie, but it is, like a shaky cam drama, and there's no special effects.
Yeah.
And the music is all really like beautiful, and It explores social issues and it doesn't really go too hard in the comic book way. But the more I thought about it afterwards, the more I thought it was utter trash.
Fascinating. Wow. The more I thought about it, the more I was like, wow, what a great film.
I didn't think that the exploration of the social issues were done well at all. It seemed very surface level to the point of being more frustrating the more I thought about it. So it's good for like if you's a dummy.
What?
Not to call you a dummy, but you know, Joker's good if you're a dummy. Which I'm basically insulting people who disagree with me by saying that. But
I don't know. 2019 was a pretty good year for movies.
All right. Well, that's the episode. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah, thanks so much. And if you enjoyed it, please give us a follow on whatever social media you happen to be on. And if you didn't enjoy it, don't say anything. Don't share your thoughts. Yeah. We're good.
Don't tell anybody. All of our social media is from Justin to Kane with a number 2. So from Justin to Kane with the number 2 instead of TO. Except if you want to email us, that's from Justin to Kane with a TO, like the title.
Keep it a little confusing, you know?
Yeah. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Letterboxd.
And Nexopia.
Yeah. So hit us up on Nexopia. Hit us up on Neopets. Somehow. Club Penguin. Bob still has an account.
Yeah. And RuneScape. We have a RuneScape avatar called From Justin to Kane. And it looks like a hybrid between Kelly Clarkson and Orson Welles. It is a sight to behold.
Yeah.
Yeah, with a big pickaxe.
So thanks for listening. Subscribe, do all the things.
Yeah, and we'll see you again on the next episode. Thanks so much.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.